What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we've got some Destiny 2 news, and it's the final TWAB, or TWID, before the launch of Into the Light. So in this one, they talk about some extra changes that we're going to see as part of the update. They firstly recap the exotic missions that are returning, and some of the other bits of content that we'll see in the update, but then we get details about changes for PvP, so the PvP strike team jump in. On top of that though, they talk about weapon changes, so we've got a handful of weapon buffs, a couple of nerfs in there as well, and there is some exotic tuning coming up. We'll talk about those, adjustments to perks, and some other quality of life changes that Bungie are introducing in the update next week. So, as always guys, if you find the video useful today, a rating really does help us out, but now let's get into it. And first up in the TWID, there is a section recapping the returning exotic missions. They pretty much give the highlights from Bungie's stream the other day. I had thought that Bungie had said they'd give more information about the Pantheon challenge that they teased in the TWID, but they simply say the new raid boss gauntlet is starting on April 30th, and in Pantheon you'll have the opportunity to face raid bosses in a weekly challenge with escalating difficulties and rewards, and this is a chance to rally your clan or use Fireteam Finder to take on the challenge, but there'll be more details as they get closer to release, so we don't know too much more about the mechanics of that, but it will be something dropping later on this month, and I imagine we'll get extra info in one of the TWIDs after Into the Light drops. So there's that, and they talk about the Final Shape gameplay preview. So this is on April 9th at 9:30 AM Pacific, roughly half an hour before Into the Light launches. And they say we're thrilled to show you what we've been working on, and in addition to seeing new gameplay, you'll get some developer insights and a behind the scenes look at what you can expect as we journey into the Traveler. And in terms of where to watch, it's on Twitch, YouTube, and TikTok. So be sure to look out for that next reset. And up next there are PvP strike team updates. So firstly, they say they're making some changes to game modes available in the competitive playlist next week. And the plan is to remove Survival and Countdown Rush and replace them with 3v3 Clash and Collision. And they say for Collision, they've changed some zone placements on maps like Dead Cliffs and Vostok based on feedback. And for Clash, they'll be swapping the ammo meter system for the ammo crate system. And the change will result in a small net increase in special ammo availability in competitive compared to the ammo meter system, while still being an overall reduction from the pre-update 735 spawn values. So there's that, but also for trials, they say in the first weeks of update 736, for week 1, they'll be running what we refer to as unrestricted special ammo crate system, where all 4 ammo crates spawn every round, and players who have special ammo will drop it on death when they're killed. But in the second week of trials, they'll be moving to a restricted system, where only 2 crates will spawn each round, and while players will still lose special ammo on death, they will not drop special ammo bricks. And they say with this focus on ammo, they'll be rolling out an improved version of the not swap modifier, and it will now fully remove ability energy if you change the ammo type of a weapon on your kinetic or energy slot. And they're implementing this change because being able to quickly and freely swap between weapons mid-engagement nullifies the downside of using a weapon with limited ammo. But to clarify, they say this means you can swap between weapons with the same ammo type without a penalty. So if you have conditional finality in your kinetic slot, you can swap to Eye of Soul or any other special ammo weapon in that slot without losing energy. However, if you swap to an Immortal, not swap will trigger and drain your ability energy, similar to if you'd swapped to part of your subclass or a new exotic armor piece. But keep in mind, those only apply during a life. So a couple of adjustments there, but here Bungie get on to weapon changes, and firstly, they talk about breach-loaded grenade launchers. And to compete better with wave frames, they're cranking up damage for single target utility, which of course will affect the mountaintop, so they're increasing impact damage by 40%, which works out roughly at a 15% damage buff. Although they have reduced both the damage and disorienting effect of disorienting grenades by 15%, so that's an interesting one. Then for lightweight bows, they say they're increasing the base damage by 6%, with Le Monarch and Wishen not being affected by that change, as they feel they were hurt a little bit too much with the PvP bow nerf recently. So that's the thing, and for precision auto rifles, they're reducing base damage by 5% once again. So another little knock to precisions right there, and Bungie say they feel they were too forgiving with the previous update. But then for precision and adaptive hand cannons, they say precisions can 2 crit and 2 body low resilience guardians, and more easily get 3 critical hits with damage boosts, and they're increasing base damage by 6%. Then for adaptive hand cannons, they say they have an increased range cushion for the 3-tap, and they've offset the damage reduction from explosive payload to allow them to 3-tap guardians of any resilience with optimal range. So body shot damage goes up by 1%, and they've increased critical hit damage by 4%. For pulse rifles though, and rapid fires, they're increasing body shot damage by 3.5% and increasing critical hit damage by 1%, and that allows 8 critical hits to kill low resilience guardians. But for lightweights, they've increased body shot damage by 6% and crit damage by 3%. Then for adaptives, body shot damage changes by 5% and critical hit damage changes by 2%. Scout rifles though will see some minor changes for rapid fires, where base damage goes up by 2%, and for precision shotguns, they corrected a rounding issue that was causing them to require an extra pellet to kill max resilience guardians. Here though, they highlight some changes for exotics in the update, and for Whisper of the Worm, they point out that they've increased the total ammunition from 18 to 24, and that's before reserve mods are added. And for 1000 Voices, they're increasing total ammunition from 7 to 11, so that gets a nice bump as well. But for Quicksilver Storm, they say it's been one of the top PvE primary weapons since it shipped. But the time has come to dial it back a little, and it'll be slower to build up grenades, and the grenades will deal reduced damage, but they say it'll still be a very strong option, but they have increased the shots to trigger rockets by 50%, and they've reduced the grenade area of effect damage versus combatants by 37.5%, so it's a reasonably significant nerf. For Last Word though, they're increasing base damage by 6%, and for Forerunner, they're increasing base damage by 6% as well, because they'd inadvertently received a primary ammo sidearm critical damage bonus, which they reverted, but that damage change offsets that change a little bit. For some of the returning weapons perks though, for Recluse and Master of Arms, they say they've reduced the damage bonus from 20% to 15%, as we know that was already very strong. They had also already informed us that they would be reducing the effectiveness of some of these bonuses, and they say the first version of Magnificent Howl on Luna's Howl was super strong, and they say it comes back with the potential to 2-tap Guardians in PvP, but requires more effort, and the number of precision final blows before reloading affects the total rounds granted with increased range and damage, and precision final blows while Magnificent Howl is active will extend the effect for additional rounds. So it requires more setting up essentially. Then for Micro Missile, on the mountaintop of course, they've redesigned the perk to be a weapon intrinsic and rebuilt it to do less damage versus players, while giving it dramatically more self-physics impulse. They've also retuned its PvE damage to be competitive with other breech-loaded grenade launchers, and they've granted it slightly increased reload speed. So it'll be interesting to try that one out. Finally though, for permeability, they fixed an issue where the perk was causing the Slammer Sword to get stuck on this strand damage type. So those are the weapon and perk changes that we have for today, guys. Give us your thoughts down below. Some of them very expected, perhaps a few less expected, but those are the changes nonetheless. They also say with Into the Light though, they're reducing the cost of strand fragments, which go from 200 strand medallions to 100. So that'll allow players to unlock more of Strand before the final shape. They also point out that they are reworking the new light experience and essentially allowing players to skip that. There are a few extra details about how that will work in the TWID if you want to check them out, that is linked down below. It'll certainly be useful for players still working through the new light campaign. But they also say to celebrate Onslaught and the arrival of the legendary version, they're going to reward Guardians who are among the first to conquer the mode in its highest difficulty, and the first 3 fire teams to complete all 50 waves on legend difficulty will receive a Lord Shack 7-inch mini replica helmet. So if you're feeling sweaty and you want to try and be in the top 3 to complete that, I imagine it's going to be pretty challenging, but that's the thing, and once again more info is in the TWID. For today though guys, those are the changes that Bungie have for us today, so I hope the video has been useful. Share your thoughts on those down in the comment section as always, and feel free to drop a like rating as well. Plus get subscribed and I can keep you posted with more Destiny content, but otherwise cheers for tuning in and I hope you guys have an awesome day.